Greetings and happy Spooktober, everyone. This is SpaceWeek episode 133 on this Sunday, October the 2nd, 2022. Thank you for coming, and if you have any questions, make sure to drop it in the live chat by tagging my name at rawspace, or just rawspace, so that we're sure to see it. Oops. I can spell questions correctly. All right. So, on Monday, September 26th at 7:14 Eastern, 23:14 UTC, NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test spacecraft, or DART. Let me restart that segment. On Monday, September 26th at 7:14 Eastern, 23:14 UTC, NASA's Double Asteroid Redirection Test spacecraft, or DART, smashed into the asteroid moon Dimorphos with the goal of evaluating the feasibility of deflecting an asteroid that threatens the Earth. To be clear, Dimorphos does not threaten the Earth, nor will it ever. It orbits the larger asteroid Didymos, and the two pose no threat. This double asteroid pair was the perfect target for DART because the asteroid's orbit around the Sun will not be measurably affected by the test. Only Dimorphos's orbit around Didymos will change by an estimated 0.6%. This may not seem significant, but given that we hoped to detect a potential future threat many months, if not years ahead of time, a tiny change in an asteroid's orbital trajectory early on can result in missing the Earth by a wide margin. Let's watch the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory control room's live reaction to the impact.
Starting to see those individual boulders there. We can see shadows of the various rocks on the surface.
Impact. It's amazing, guys. Oh my goodness, look at that. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Looks to me like we're headed straight in. Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. 8,
Yeah.
7, 6,
wow.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
Awaiting visual confirmation.
All right. Let's see. We got it? Waiting.
And we have impact.
So just the sheer joy of the mission team, as well as the uniqueness of the mission and the successful completion of its main objective, was really exhilarating to watch. I mean, I was giddy watching this unfold. So here is a sped up and stabilized view of the approach, courtesy of the channel 19th Century Videos Back to Life. So on the left we see Didymos, the larger asteroid, and then dead ahead we see Dimorphos, which is about half the height of the Eiffel Tower, about 500 feet-ish. And when I first saw the little bright speck to the lower left of Dimorphos, I was like, is that a moon around the moon? But apparently it's just a ridge or escarpment that is sticking up above the surface of that side of the asteroid. So, okay. DART torpedoed into Dimorphos at 6.5 kilometers per second. That's 6,500 meters per second, 23,400 kilometers per hour, 14,500 miles per hour, or 4 miles per second. The DART impactor's mass was about 570 kilograms, or 1,260 pounds. Up next is an amazing view of the impact from the Atlas telescope in South Africa. The object you'll see floating across the frame is Didymos, the larger asteroid. Although the asteroid pair is only 11 million kilometers, or 7.5 million miles away, more than 3 times closer than Mars ever gets to Earth, it's still far enough away and small enough that we can't resolve the asteroid moon Dimorphos as a separate object from here. All we can do is measure the changes in combined brightness from the pair. In fact, the first time we saw Dimorphos by itself was just a few minutes before the impact in the broadcast that I just replayed for you. Check this out. And so what you see there is basically a spray of debris blasting out from, let's watch that again. A spray of debris blasting out from Dimorphos, which you can't see there, but the debris has a high albedo, a high reflectivity, and so you're seeing asteroid debris as well as spacecraft debris blasting out from Didymos. Very cool view there. Now, a rough calculation using the size and speed of the spacecraft to figure the duration of the impact, DART's impact force was 36.7 giganewtons, which is 8.3 billion pound force, or 4.1 million tons. That's the equivalent force of 1,047 Saturn V rocket launches compressed into a tiny fraction of a second. When asked about spacecraft debris during the press conference, one DART team member chuckled, saying that it was utterly vaporized, which we saw in that video. Also last Monday, a Chinese Long March 2D launched the first group of 3 Yaogan 3601 satellites. Like many Chinese rockets, this one is fueled by hypergolics, nitrogen tetroxide, and UDMH. That is the wrong clip. Here, let me fix that. My bad. All right. Later that same day, UTC time anyway, an RP-1 liquid-fueled Long March 6 lifted off from Taiyuan with the Xi'an 16A and B and Xi'an 17 satellites. that will reportedly be used for land surveying and disaster mitigation. Little view of the rollout and erection there. Now back to this clip. So an SLS rocket was supposed to launch NASA's Artemis 1 mission on September 27th, but the approach of Hurricane Ian prompted NASA to wisely decide to roll the vehicle back to the VAB for its protection. Ian ended up rolling directly over Cape Canaveral, so that was a good call. Now, it isn't clear when it will be rolled back out to the pad, or at least I haven't read when it will be rolled back out to the pad, or when the next target launch date is. But the rollback will definitely cause some delay of probably a few weeks. And let's replay that again. Yeah. So it was a good call. Now, what I don't know is, are they going to try to perform some additional maintenance on those hydrogen valves since they've got it in the VAB? Seems like that would be a reasonable thing to do, given the abundance of problems they've had with hydrogen leaks. Not so much on the SLS rocket itself, but on the quick disconnect valve coming from the mobile launch tower. Now, last Wednesday, Category 4 Hurricane Ian blasted through Florida from the Gulf side with maximum sustained winds of 249 kilometers per hour, or 155 miles per hour. It devastated some coastal cities such as Fort Myers and Cape Coral and caused extensive destruction all along its path. This view of Ian from the ISS was recorded 2 days before the Florida landfall, while it was over the Gulf of Mexico. Not great resolution, but stunning view in any case. There's some detail of the eye. Such as it was at the time. It was reasonably well-defined eye, but not, there wasn't like a tunnel straight through to the ground like you see when it's like at this point I think it was Category 3, 2 or 3, and then it ramped up to 4 just before it hit Florida. Yes. Here is a time lapse of Hurricane Ian's life cycle from September 22nd through the 30th. I assembled it from high-resolution GOES East weather satellite images. This very moment during SpaceWeek is the first time this particular 4K sequence has ever been seen. This is just a rough draft. I'll polish it up, add music, and upload it as a standalone video at a later time. And there you saw it, flying right over Microbyte and Rockin' Robbins 13. Second landfall in South Carolina, and it's slow fizzling over the eastern seaboard of the United States. Oops. So, in the wee hours of last Thursday, my time, which is why I didn't live stream it, cosmonauts Oleg Artemayev, Denis Matveyev, and Sergei Korsakov departed the International Space Station in their Soyuz MS-21 spacecraft. After Artemayev handed off the command of the station to Italian astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti.
Expedition 67 on its way home. Expedition 68 formally underway.
Docking port is clear.
And here's the landing in Kazakhstan, outside the city of Zhezkazgan.
And touchdown. Touchdown confirmed at 5:57 a.m. Central Time, 6:57 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:57 p.m. at the landing site. The soft landing engines firing.
Congratulations to the returning crew. On Friday, the Chinese Wentian laboratory module was relocated from the front docking port to the side docking port of the Tianhe core module. Yep, and that was a quickie. But at least we got to see it. Last but not least, on Saturday, Firefly Aerospace's Alpha rocket successfully achieved orbit for the first time, lifting off from Vandenberg in California. The small satellites on board were reportedly all deployed successfully. See if we can fast forward here to the... That is a nice view. So, this isn't in my my prepared notes, but I wanted to mention, since we're seeing this view here, that when you look down at the Earth from space, you may notice, well, you personally are not likely to do this, but when you see footage and video from space, a lot of times you can't tell where the land is and where the sea is. Like right now we're looking at the west coast of California, but you can't really even tell where the coast is. And the reason for that is because the sky is blue. Now, you may think, well, the sky over my head is blue, but in fact, the reason why the sky is blue is because of what's called Rayleigh scattering, which is the full spectrum light that we receive from the sun. Some of the wavelengths, such as red and orange, mostly pass through the atmosphere, whereas the blue wavelengths of light, excuse me, the blue wavelengths of light are scattered. And so what you see when you look up at the sky are the scattered blue light wavelengths from the sun. But the same thing applies in the atmosphere beneath you, which is why when you're in space, or even when you're in an airplane, beneath you looks very hazy. It looks washed out and blue. That is because the sunlight hitting the air molecules beneath you is scattered in just the same way as it is above you. And so when you look down at the Earth, you are seeing not just the blue of the ocean or the blue of, and the white of the clouds, but you're seeing the blue of the blue sky beneath your vantage point, which is really kind of a weird concept because we think of the sky as being straight up, but the sky is also below us if we happen to be at a high altitude. So that's why you can barely tell where the coastline is there. So let's see, did they show the deployment? Hey, there's a deployment. So that video was from Firefly. Now, as with the Soyuz return, I did not stream this particular launch due to it being 3 a.m. my time, but the live stream was available from Tim Dodd, the everyday astronaut, who was Firefly's official broadcast partner. Now, those of you watching that crisp 4K stream must have been confused when the video suddenly time warped right after ignition. I'll show you what I mean.
Here we go, guys.
T-minus 10 seconds. T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's off the pad.
Yep, so Tim confirmed it was off the pad, but for some reason the video seemed to have skipped the launch. Now, this was not the result of some nefarious conspiracy to hide the launch from us. Instead, it was just a streaming glitch, apparently caused by the Teradek cloud streaming appliance that Tim was using. He showed a couple of 4K slow-motion replays of the launch later in the stream. Let's check them out. Bear in mind, there was no launch audio during these replays, just Tim's commentary, which I will mute here. But you still get the view. So this is a slow-motion 4K replay of the Firefly launch from a couple of Tim's cameras. With debris peppering the camera enclosure. Let's see, there was another one. Here we go. It might have been the same one. So, launch providers of the world, take note. If a YouTuber can stream beautiful 4K multi-camera live coverage of a launch, then so can you. I'm looking at you, ULA, Arianespace, NASA, Rocket Lab, ISRO, etc., etc. Thus far, as of October 22, only SpaceX and Firefly have ever streamed in ultra-high definition. It's shameful. So fix it. Please. Looking further back into space history, this Tuesday marks 65 years since the first artificial Earth satellite was launched. Sputnik 1 was launched on October 4th, 1957, on a Sputnik rocket designed by Sergei Korolev, chief engineer of the early Soviet space program. Sputnik lifted off from the world's first and largest spaceport, Baikonur Cosmodrome, in what was then the former Soviet Union, now the country of Kazakhstan. Sputnik 1 flew in an elongated 215-kilometer by 939-kilometer orbit, with a period of 96.2 minutes. It transmitted radio beeps for 22 days until its battery ran out. It orbited for exactly 3 months, falling back into Earth's atmosphere on January 4th, 1958. In the intervening 65 years, thousands of satellites have been launched from many countries. About 8,000 remain in orbit, and 5,000 are still active. Half that number, 2,494, belong to one company, SpaceX, with their Starlink mega constellation. I still have the dish behind me, which you can see in the full screen view. I expect I'll reactivate my Starlink service at some point, but I've no idea when. And don't get on SpaceX's case too much for having such an abundance of satellites littering our nighttime view of the sky, although I can never actually see them myself because I have light pollution. Because whether SpaceX, Amazon, OneWeb, or another country, the mega constellations were coming. They were inevitable in this increasingly connected world, and SpaceX was simply the first to deploy a truly mega constellation of satellites. Looking ahead to this week, now that the hurricane has passed, though the cleanup will take a while, especially in some Gulf Coast cities, Florida's spaceports are resuming launches. Firstly, though, on the other side of the country, at Vandenberg in California, on Monday, October 3rd at 7:56 p.m. Eastern Time, 21:31 UTC, SpaceX will launch another batch of Starlink satellites. Tuesday, October 4th at 5:36 p.m. Eastern, 21:36 UTC, a ULA Atlas V will launch from Cape Canaveral with the SES-20 and SES-21 geostationary communication satellites for SES of Luxembourg. Atlas will fly in the 531 configuration with a 5-meter fairing, 3 SRBs, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. This launch was supposed to happen last Friday, but then Hurricane Ian interfered. On Wednesday, October 5th, starting at 8:30 a.m. Eastern, 12:30 UTC, is continuous live coverage of the Crew 5 launch to the ISS from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket. Now, this launch was delayed a couple of times, once by apparently the booster was damaged in transit to the launch pad, and again, it was bumped a couple of days by Hurricane Ian. On board the Crew Dragon Endurance spacecraft will be NASA astronauts Nicole Mann and Josh Casada, Japanese astronaut Koichi Wakata, and Russian cosmonaut Anna Kikina. It's been a while since a Russian female cosmonaut was on board the space station. I don't even recall the last one. Endurance previously flew on the Crew 3 mission. The launch itself is at 12 p.m. Eastern, 1600 UTC. There's a post-launch news conference 90 minutes later. Docking will be the following day, October 6th, at 4:57 p.m. Eastern, 1657 UTC. And hatch opening is a couple of hours later at 6:42 p.m. Eastern, 22:42 UTC. The welcoming comments occur about 90 minutes after that at 8:10 p.m. Eastern, 0010 UTC. Now, I'll be providing a 36-hour continuous live stream of the whole mission for you. I will try to get my hands on a higher resolution feed than the pitiful 720p that NASA broadcasts, but no guarantees. Fingers crossed, though. Also on Wednesday the 5th, at 1:04 p.m. Eastern, 17:04 UTC, a Rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch from New Zealand with the Gazelle satellite, formerly known as the Orbital Test Bed 3 for General Atomics. Gazelle carries the Argos 4 advanced data collection system for NOAA, the U.S. Space Force, and the French space agency CNES. Argos 4 will collect environmental data such as atmospheric pressure, ocean surface temperature, and even wildlife and animal tracking through some sort of spectroscopy, I presume. They won't be tracking individual animals from space. In honor of the payload, this mission is named It Argos Up From Here. Rocket Lab will not attempt to recover the first stage booster this time. Thursday, October 6th, at 7:07 p.m. Eastern Time, 23:07 UTC, a SpaceX Falcon 9 will launch the Galaxy 33 and 34 geostationary communication satellites for Intelsat, which will provide C-band video and TV broadcast services in the United States. Here's a fun fact. The NASA UHD 4K channel is transmitted via the Galaxy 13 satellite, also operated by Intelsat and JSAT. Galaxy 13, also called Horizons 1, was launched on October 1st, 2003, exactly 19 years ago as of yesterday. Unfortunately, the Galaxy 13 satellite feed is NASA's only 4K broadcast, and it mostly features Earth view replays and science segments. It doesn't typically include live events such as launches and spacewalks. Now, I have heard that NASA is working on implementing 4K broadcasting to the rest of their streams and offerings, but as for when that's going to be rolled out, I have no idea. A short time later, at 8:47 p.m. Eastern on the 6th, or 0:47 UTC on the 7th, an Epsilon rocket from the Japanese space agency JAXA will launch RAISE-3, or the Rapid Innovative Payload Demonstration Satellite 3, which contains 7 technology demonstrations that were chosen by the public. Then on Friday, October 7th at 9:20 a.m. Eastern, 13:20 UTC, a Chinese Smart Dragon 3 rocket will launch the Centispace 1 S5 and S6 satellites. No live coverage is expected. Smart Dragon 3, also called Zhilong 3, is a small solid-fueled vehicle capable of launching 3,300 pounds or 1,500 kilograms of payload to a 310-mile high or 500-kilometer sun-synchronous orbit. It was developed by China Rocket Company Limited, a subsidiary of the state-owned CASC Group. I want to take a moment, as always, to heartily thank my channel supporters and let you know how you may do so if you wish. For monthly contributions, you can become a patron at patreon.com/rawspace. For coffee money or treats for Bennu, you can use paypal.me/rawspacevideos. And for sweet merch, such as this shirt that I'm wearing, you can't have this particular one, it's mine, go to shop.rawspace.live. I'll be adding more designs as time permits. If you have any design suggestions, want to post space news, or just shoot the breeze, check out our Discord server, which I've linked in the chat. Now it is time for your questions. First off, let me see if the question gatherated the questions. Excellent. Thank you, Chris V, for managing that. All right. So, 1:50 p.m., 4:02 p.m., okay. Now, Evgeny from the Far East has asked, SLS really roll back? Hello, raw space. Is it too much problems? So, yes, the SLS has rolled back, but it was not rolled back to the VAB, the Vehicle Assembly Building, because it has problems. It was rolled back to protect it during the hurricane, which, as I mentioned earlier, was absolutely the right call, because the eye of Hurricane Ian passed right over the Cape. And so, you know, SLS or the mobile launch tower would have very likely been damaged, maybe even knocked over, which would have been unbelievably devastating. Julian Roberts, Falcon 9 is testing now ahead of crew launch. I presume you're referring to a static fire test, so it's good to know. Crew launch on, what, Wednesday, is it? Yes. All right. MVM Motovlog Music, Raw Space. I wonder who launches more. So some years it's China, some years it's SpaceX. Since SpaceX really got going, it has become the largest single launch provider in the world. I mean, the Chinese launches are sometimes divided up between different sort of sub companies, but they mostly fall under the state-owned CASC parent organization. But if you don't count China, then SpaceX is absolutely number one by a large margin. As far as specifically how many launches this year, I haven't looked at those numbers recently, but I believe there's a Wikipedia page that gives you that info in a nice chart format. Real Sven says, I can't believe I found that Easter egg. He's referring to the Google Easter egg that I posted a short little video about a couple days ago. And that was from Real Sven, our friend from the Ukraine, and he discovered that if you go to Google and you type in double asteroid redirection test, or there's actually some other terms that can trigger it as well, Google has a little animation that they play of the DART spacecraft flying across the screen and skewing the whole Google result page at an angle. It's kind of funny. I added the sound effects. So Julian Roberts, 4 p.m. Eastern static fire. So that would have been 37 minutes ago, just as I started this broadcast. So I presume that static fire was successful. At this point, it would be very unusual for something to go awry with a Falcon 9 static fire, but you never know. I probably would have heard about it by now if something happened. Mark Desert, I've read SLS will not launch before November. That's what I've been reading in the chat, even in the untagged comments, that SLS is delayed until at least November. So that'll be more than a month, or at least 1 month delay for SLS because of the rollback. Now I don't actually know why rolling it back to the VAB causes such a delay. I don't know if it's the rollback or that their launch windows are limited, and so there's just not another launch window until November. Because I mean, it takes basically a day to roll it out. It takes like 12 hours, whatever, to roll it out from the VAB to the launch pad at a snail's pace. But maybe there's a bunch of stuff they have to do on the pad to hook things up and prepare the systems and make sure everything is, and maybe that takes weeks. I don't know. But they certainly got it. But like, they made the decision about the rollback last Sunday, and then the rollback was conducted, I think, on Monday or Tuesday. But they certainly disconnected everything pretty quickly and then rolled it back in a speedy fashion. So in any case, November for SLS is what we're looking at. MV Motovlog Music said, "Great job, Raw Space." That's referring to my time lapse of the Hurricane Ian. We got a good view of it this time. There were no glitches in the source images or gaps in the source images from the GOES East satellite, and so we had a nice clean view of the whole life cycle of the hurricane. And I don't know if I'll upload that video today. Probably not, because I'm kind of worn out. But in any case, do you have any more questions? All right, looks like that's it for now. Did you know that SpaceWeek is also available as an audio podcast? That's right. It's at spaceweek.libsyn.com. That's spaceweek.libsyn.com, as well as on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and others. So thank you all for coming. Once again, this is Raw Space. Keep it raw, and I will catch you in the next live stream. Bye for now.